Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Arsenal Ramble, where today we're going to be talking about Arsenal's massive 1-0 win away at the King Power Stadium that happened on Saturday, Saturday afternoon. We're a little bit later than usual, but better late than never, aren't we? As always, I'm joined by my co-rambler, Dave. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. Yeah, buzzing about the win. 2 in a row now. Getting that run started. So very happy with the win. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really happy about that as well. Actually, it was so important that we could get over that bit of a rut that we're getting ourselves into, weren't we? It's
Mm.
so good that we can get out the other side with a couple of wins, and then all of a sudden we've opened up a bit of breathing space between us and Man City. And if we could end up winning on Wednesday as well, then a
Mm.
few wrongs have been righted.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. That Man City loss doesn't seem as painful now, does it? Just less than a couple of weeks later, it's sort of just dead and buried, and we're just now looking to the future and yeah, yeah. No, really, really, really chuffed for that win. It's a big one, a big 3 points that was really needed. So happy to get over the line.
Yeah, exactly. And going away to Leicester City, it's always one on the calendar that looks like a potential banana skin. So,
Mm.
Leicester are quite inconsistent with their wins and losses. However, they do sometimes beat the bigger teams. So it's really good that we were able to come away with a win there. But so we'll start with team sheets then. There was a bit of a different selection going into the game on
Yeah.
Saturday. We actually decided to rest Eddie Nketiah. I think maybe a wise move just because of how he's underperformed of late. And both Trossard and Martinelli have looked pretty good when they've played. So were you happy with that decision to rotate?
Yeah, to be fair, I was, and this was a change that I was looking for in. I think it was the previous game, or it might have been the Everton one, or one of our previous games. I was hoping for maybe a Trossard as a false nine, just to give Eddie a little bit of a rest because he is our only out and out striker at the minute. And now games are coming thick and fast. We've got Europa League fast approaching, and you know, to be playing 90 minutes consistently week in, week out is difficult, isn't it? And this is a player that hasn't necessarily ever done that for any club. He's a young guy, never really consistently played 90 minutes for his whole career. So I think it's about time that he had a little bit of a rest. And like you say, his form was dipping slightly. Um, wasn't putting in those performances like he did against United and against Spurs. So hopefully this can just allow him to recalibrate and find that form again. It's funny though because before the game in the preview, we were actually sort of bigging him up, weren't we? Saying that this could be the game where he bags a couple of goals and sparks that form going again. But obviously that's not happened. But Trossard is playing really, really at a really high level at the minute. So I was glad to see him, and we'll obviously come on to his performance a little bit later.
Yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, it's strange that you say that because Arteta keeps his cards close to his chest, and quite a lot of us were calling to maybe see this formation and having them as a false nine. I thought maybe Trossard would be playing as the false nine, but it looked more often than not that Martinelli was stepping in there. But
Mm.
to be honest, it's quite nice to see that none of the front three were really sticking too much to their positions. It was almost like they were given license to overlap and dovetail together and you know um,
Yeah.
be an unexpected presence in that area. So yeah, it was nice to see a bit more fluidity up top.
Yeah, and yeah, they were sort of alternating on the left, and I was noticing. I think Match of the Day picked up this on their analysis as well, and how Trossard was dropping in quite deep just to link up play a little bit more, almost how Jesus plays with his back to goal at times, but he has got that ability to just wriggle out of positions, doesn't he? And we saw it for the goal. He's got that ability to just nutmeg a player and cause a great chance for us. So I think it worked really, really well. Um, and yeah, it's something that I hope
Mm.
that we can utilize on it a little bit more. It's certainly an option off the bench as well.
Yeah. So, should we talk a little bit about the start of the game? We were quite dominant, really, weren't we? We came out the blocks quite quickly, and unfortunately, but for a VAR overturning us, we would have been 1-0 up quite quickly, weren't we? I have to agree with the VAR that it's the correct decision in hindsight, in retrospect. But the one thing that does really bug me is how have they got some little spy cam in a position there to be able to see Ben White holding the goalkeeper's hand, but then, for example, in the game against Brentford, the VAR can't see a clear offside. It still bugs me, the fact that it seems like it how can they have every single camera angle in certain games, but then in other games they don't really check properly? That's the inconsistency that really, really frustrates me.
Yeah, and if you remember when we played Aston Villa and they were all over Ramsdale in the box, and not David Luiz, Douglas Luiz scores directly from a corner, doesn't he?
Mm.
Because Ramsdale was impeded that heavily, and it was given. um, now, if I do agree with what you're saying, and it was a foul because if that happened to us and Ramsdale's arm was being held and he had to then punch it with his other hand, resulted in a poor clearance, then yeah, we'd probably be unhappy with it. It's just there's no consistency, is there? In fact, moments later, I think it was probably like 10 minutes later, Saka's essentially rugby tackled in the box, isn't he? Um,
Yeah,
and nothing. Did VAR even look at it? I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. So yeah, it's just consistency that I want. And
mm.
it's getting a little bit draining, isn't it, talking about it all the time? It is for me anyway. Thankfully, it's not one of those days like at Brentford where it's cost us any points. But yeah, I think ultimately right
Yeah.
decision. Just there needs to be consistency.
Yeah, it is really annoying when refereeing decisions can overshadow the whole game. It does ruin it a
Yeah,
little bit for me. But Trossard wasn't to know that there was a foul there, and to be fair, he makes an unbelievable finish, doesn't he? He creates a little bit of
mm.
space at the edge of the box and puts it top bins, and you're thinking,
Mm.
that's a striker's goal sort of thing. It's not like we're
Yeah,
missing Eddie Nketiah. That's what he's in the team to do. So, I was really impressed with the way that he managed to finish that move. And unfortunately, it was overturned because of the whole Ben White grabbing the goalkeeper's hand
yeah,
thing. But yeah, so there was a bit of positivity from there. But then once the goals then overruled, you're thinking we've got through, the first 40 or so minutes and we've not actually scored. And I think Leicester went straight up the other end of the pitch and they scored, but it was an offside goal. And then there was a few warning
yeah.
signs for us, really, that we're not we've not scored in the first 45 minutes or so. So we're potentially going to struggle.
Mm. Yeah, and this is what we've come a little accustomed to, hasn't it, at the minute? Us creating chance after chance after chance, then conceding one little sloppy error or something like that, and then
Mm.
being efficient and taking it straight away, and it's really frustrating. But thankfully, yeah, it was miles offside, and Gabriel did play that offside trap quite well. I think it was Gabriel. Um, so yeah, but going back to Trossard, yeah, I am gutted for him, to be fair, because it's a real shame, isn't it, that one's got chalked off because that was an absolute beauty of a finish.
Mm.
Um, and he deserves it, I think. I think he deserved that goal today. Just sort of backs up his current form at the minute. Um, and it just goes to show like how good Arteta and Edu in the transfer market right now, because every single transfer we're getting done is just hitting. Jorginho as well has been brilliant since he's come in. And as you know, I was a little bit oof when we were first linked to him. I was thinking, I don't quite see it. But thankfully, I've been proved wrong. Um, yeah, Trossard's been brilliant, and you look at the player that we almost signed in Mudryk, who looks nowhere near ready, or nowhere near the the level of player that sort of money gets you. So, what a brilliant plan B Trossard was. Yeah, just thought I'd add that in there, to be honest.
Yeah, and if you actually put it into perspective, Trossard and Jorginho together, their their value was less than half of what Mudryk cost to get to Chelsea. So it just shows you
Yeah,
brilliant business from Arsenal on that part. And
yeah,
yeah, I was really impressed with Jorginho's performance again. He's really taken into that Partey role quite well, hasn't he? And yeah, it was weird as well seeing him later on, seeing him and Partey on the pitch at the same time. I thought that wasn't something we were going to
mhm,
see so quickly. But yeah, I'm really happy with the signings that Edu and Arteta have made so far. But we went
yeah,
into half time. It was still 0-0, and we were wondering, are we going to get another fast start in the second half? And thankfully, we absolutely did. We came
mm,
straight out of the blocks, and
yeah,
Trossard again. Well, actually, it came from a Gabriel clearance, didn't it, at the back? He just hoofed it up, and I thought, this is him just clearing his line sort of thing. But it turned out to be
mm,
a really good ball forward, and Trossard managed to get on the end
yeah,
of it. And this is what I was saying about Trossard and Martinelli swapping positions. Trossard finds himself
mm,
on the wing, and then Martinelli's making the run straight away on the inside. He Trossard
yeah,
then manages to nutmeg the player into Martinelli's path, who then just Thierry Henry esque guides it into the
yeah,
far post, and it was a moment of beauty, really, wasn't it? I thought it was such an unbelievable finish from him because it was quite a tight angle and he was under a lot of pressure. But yeah, it was a great finish. And unfortunately, we couldn't see him knee sliding into the corner because he got a bit of
mm,
studs on his knee just as he was finishing it. And for two people, as in me and you, which have both torn their ACLs, I think we both cringed at that point, didn't we?
yeah. My heart, yeah, I was a little bit heart in mouth at that point because normally if you don't celebrate a goal, it's pretty serious, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you'd be knee sliding, like you say. So I was thinking, oh God, what's this going to be? This is just our luck. Um, but thankfully, it just was just a bit of a sore one, wasn't it? Yeah, just studs to the knee. Probably a bit of bruising or whatever. But brilliant finish. Yeah, like you say, Thierry Henry esque. Just passed it into the corner. I said didn't have to absolutely rifle it, did he? Just passed it in, and I think that was the Thierry Henry trademark, wasn't it? He always used to say like 9 times out of 10, you can pass the ball into the net. You don't have to rifle it, because more often than not, that will result in you either shooting it direct at the keeper or or just completely missing. So I'm glad that he's got that nous to find that corner and just slot away a goal, slot away the goal because it was crucial. It was crucial that we started strong in that second half because I think we were looking for that goal, weren't we, in the first half with all that pressure. So to come out start with a goal straight away, it was like the first half was written off. It doesn't matter what happened now. We've got our goal, then we can start playing our game. So it was a really, really crucial goal for me.
Yeah, definitely, and especially because we didn't really create too many chances. We didn't really
Mm,
have many chances created against us either. Well, after looking at the XG that Leicester got post game, I think it was the lowest XG that any Premier League team has ever gotten in a match ever since records began with 0.01/0.02 that people were quoting. I thought that is just crazy numbers to be honest, because you feel like when it was
uh,
1-0 to Arsenal, I was naturally quite nervous. I thought at some point we could make an error or Leicester are going to get a sloppy goal. But on reflection, when you watch it back, they never really created anything. They had one half decent chance from like 35 yards, which ended up going wide. And that I think that counted
yeah,
towards their XG, and that was it. They didn't really create anything. So I think we have to we give a lot of praise to our attackers in how well they perform, but I think today you need to give real credit to our defensive midfielders and defence at how well they actually managed to maintain Leicester City's attack.
yeah, 100%. I think, yeah, it was that Koza Dewberry shot, wasn't it? From like say 35 yards. That was all they could really muster, and Ramsdale had that covered. So if we're forcing them to shoot from range, and that being their only real chance, you can't ask for much better, can you? But the comparisons between that Everton game where we lost, and Brentford, where we drew, to this one with our defensive press was just on a different level. I think that was something that really affected us. Just this slow press when we weren't in possession, and that's something that I think we've corrected in recent games. And there's no obvious reason as to why we weren't doing it, but ever since we have put that back into place, results have gone our way. And I think that it's crucial to the way we play when we haven't got the ball in getting possession back and mustering chances.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you can see that Martin Odegaard looked reinvigorated, and he was leading that
Mm,
press. So I don't know if
yeah,
that was a factor in it, because he's looked a little bit. He's looked quite fatigued recently in games, and he's not been pressing as hard as he usually would. I don't know if
yeah.
maybe a factor in that is with Eddie Nketiah not being in the team. Martin Odegaard's felt the need to try and step up, because usually Nketiah is quite a he does a lot of pressing himself, and then Martin Odegaard might slack off a bit. But he's probably taken he's taken it upon himself in this game to lead the press. But I was really happy with that, and buzzing to be going 1-0 in, 1-0 up, especially after our frustrating first half. And it just seemed like the game was kind of drifting, but it always felt like we could maybe give the chance away, like a
Mm.
sloppy set piece or a corner or something. So in this sort of game, you really need to try and find that second goal. But it never really materialized, did it?
No, there was a period of time later in the second half where we did have to sustain a bit of pressure. But like you say, nothing was really concrete for them. I think we defended well. And I think the substitutions did reflect that. Like you say, Partey came on for Odegaard later on, and we just went a bit more defensive, just saw out the 1-0 win. 1-0 to the Arsenal. That's what we're known for, isn't it? Or we're known for. And sometimes that's just the way games have got to go. Gets to that last 20 minutes of a game, and is it worth really pushing for a second goal and opening yourself up for the counter, which is something that was pretty much the only way Leicester were going to score. A counter attack goal, or a lucky set piece or something like that. So I think we probably thought, you know what, they're not creating much. If we shut up shop, it's 3 points in the bag, and that's what happened. So
Yeah, it's quite interesting as well when he brought on Thomas Partey. I thought he was going to make that straight switch with Jorginho or Xhaka, but it was interesting to see that he actually went more defensive, because I think he actually took off. Was it Saka, or he took off? No, it was Martin Odegaard, I think, and he went quite defensive, and that's something that we've not seen. We've never really seen Arteta veer from his shape, really, apart from maybe bringing on Rob Holding as like a third centre back sometimes.
mm,
So it was nice to see that
yeah,
we've
yeah,
got this extra option in terms of seeing games out, to be able to take off an attacking midfielder, bring on a defensive midfielder, and then have three across the middle. However, saying that,
yeah.
Partey took up a right wing position and turned into Bukayo Saka for a few times, didn't he? So his long legs
Yeah.
striding down the right wing. It seemed really unnatural to him, didn't it? When he got to the edge of the box, you could see he was like, "What do I do now? I don't know. Should I shoot? Do I cross?" But
Yeah. No, he has got that burst of pace though, haven't we? That's like that hidden absolute electric pace from Partey. I think we saw it in the Tottenham game earlier in the season, didn't we? Where he's absolutely came out of nowhere for, towards the corner. So yeah, I think it was just the way it went with how he got found on the wing at certain points in time. But yeah, I think it was a clever substitution. Put it that way. It was a smart one, and I think if there's any area to Arteta's game that he needs to improve on, it is substitutions, and that was one that I liked. To be fair, I think that was a clever one, and ultimately it worked. So yeah, happy days.
yeah, really happy with that. He also brought on Tomiyasu, didn't he? Was that for
Mm.
Zinchenko?
I can't remember. I can't remember who he came on for. It could have been. I think it might have been.
Because I was hoping to see Tierney play in this game, but I'm pretty sure he brought
Mm.
Tomiyasu on for Zinchenko. I mean, we're talking about this now. It's been a couple of days later. but yeah, it is good to see him get some minutes as well. Maybe just prepping for Wednesday, to be honest, because we've got a massive game there as well, and I'm sure some of the players that didn't get minutes today will be able to get some more minutes on that in that game on Wednesday.
Yeah, it was for Zinchenko in the 93rd. So more of a time wasting substitution. It looks as if, but yeah, I know what you mean about Tierney. 'Cause I'm starting to feel a little bit bad for him. I know that's weird because Zinchenko is amazing, and I do class him as our starting left back, but it's 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 sad to not see him in the team. He's such a fan's favourite, and still is for me. So it's difficult not seeing him playing week in, week out.
Mm.
I'm just hoping with these up and coming midweek fixtures in the Europa League, we're going to start to see a lot more of him, and hopefully he can show what he can do, and and maybe force Arteta into a more difficult decision, because at the minute it is an obvious Zinchenko pick.
Yeah, well, that's the thing though. It's either so Ben White and Zinchenko start, and then when either of them get subbed, it's Tomiyasu for either side. So it does seem like Tierney's
Mm,
being left out in the cold a little bit, and
yeah,
of a player of his quality and his ability, he doesn't want to be that third choice left back. Do you know what I mean? So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he's got an eye on a move in summer, which would be a real shame because he was being quoted as, potentially the next club captain before Martin Odegaard was given the captaincy. So, yeah,
yeah,
it is a bit disappointing, but he's not an Arteta player. We've got to remember that he was there before Arteta came. And Zinchenko brings so much to our build-up play. He's so important to our team and the way we set up. So you can see why Arteta doesn't want to play him. But yeah, it is really it's sad to see what is a lovely
yeah.
bloke not playing. But there was an opportunity to maybe give Kivior some minutes in this game. Maybe bring him on
Mm,
just for like the last 5 or so minutes. But I guess when you're 1-0 up, I wouldn't say backs against the wall, but you're trying your best to
no,
get over the line and get those 3 points. It might not be the best time to bring on a brand new player,
yeah.
is it?
No, we were saying this the other day, weren't we? Like, there's the right game to bring on a Kivior, and that's when we're maybe like 2 or 3-0 up, cruising, just to sort of bed him in a little bit. Um, don't think this would have been the one. So it's high pressure, points are on the line ultimately. Um, they obviously weren't posing much of a threat, but you don't want to be making too many changes on the back line.
Mm.
If they've done so well as well throughout the game. Like you say, considering a 0.01 xG for 90 minutes is pretty damn impressive. So what's the point in changing it? So hopefully the Europa League, though. Hopefully, because we've got Sporting Lisbon, haven't we? And I think
Mm.
that out of the bunch of teams that we could have had, is probably one of the most favourable ties we could have hoped for. We've avoided teams like Juventus. Um, at first, I thought Union Berlin would have been a good team to face, but they're actually top of the Bundesliga, which I only just figured out. So glad we've avoided them. So yeah, maybe with us getting one of the weaker teams, Sporting Lisbon, they're still not going to be a pushover team by any means, but I think Kivior looks to be solid player. It'd be interesting to see how he does in that game. What about you? What do you think?
Oh yeah, for sure, and it's definitely going to come down to crunch time in terms of rotation and keeping players fit. Whilst we're going into what is the last running of the season, to be honest,
Yeah,
we can't have the same players playing, say Sunday, Thursday every week
no.
because it's going to be draining, and our performances are going to suffer because of that. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
he'll be a really great option to bring in for the Europa League game. And if he plays well in the first leg against Sporting Lisbon, then he's merited maybe an opportunity in the Premier League. If he has a bit of a dodgy performance, then you can put an arm around him and say, look, you're not quite ready and we'll focus on the training ground kind of thing. So, yeah, I
Mhm.
think that would be a really good opportunity to be able to see him get some minutes. But as we're talking, we've got a massive game on Wednesday, which would see us go level on games with both, with Manchester City, because Manchester United didn't actually play this weekend. So that gives us a real opportunity to go 5 points clear again with the same games played, which would then mean with 13 games out from the end of the season with a 5-point gap, that just blows my mind in comparison to where we were this time last season, and what an opportunity that is.
It's a massive opportunity. Yeah, it's that psychological battle that we keep talking about, and it's this game in hand means nothing unless you win it, and it's also a little bit personal as well because it's against Everton, and they beat us in that game only a few weeks ago. So I'm hoping we can almost see it as like a revenge fixture, a little bit like the United game when they beat us on earlier in the season, which was obviously that one was a little bit more controversial. The Everton one was probably a lessons learned, a deserved loss, whereas the United one maybe not so much. But this one, I feel like we're at home. I want to take a full advantage of this and just get the 3 points and get that gap bigger, because that's only going to put more pressure on City. What about you? How are you thinking the game's going to go?
Yeah, well, it's going to be a midweek fixture under the lights at our home stadium. We've got this massive opportunity to go 5 points clear of City. I think all of the lads are going to be completely up for it. And I'm hoping personally that Arteta sticks with the same sort of team that he fielded at the weekend. Just because Nketiah seemed to not really get any joy against that Everton backline in trying to run in behind. So I think we're not going to beat them into when it comes to set pieces, because they are a very physical side. So I would love to see Trossard start in that position again, and hopefully we can make some little triangles and play the ball through and create some opportunities, more opportunities than we created at Goodison Park. What are you saying about that?
Well, yeah, I completely agree, because in the first game they basically doubled and tripled up on our wingers, didn't they, on Saka and Martinelli? And in order to bypass that, we need that triangular option, like you say, and we need to be able to work around it, come inside, give little come and goes. And Eddie Nketiah is a fox in the box sort of player, so he essentially is isolating himself away from all of that intricate link-up play. He can do it at times, and we have seen him do it in some games, but it's few and far between. Whereas Trossard, I think, will offer that a lot more. I mean, we've just seen it in this game. He's gone out wide, nutmegged the player, played a beautiful pass into Martinelli, nice link-up play, composed finish. You could argue that Nketiah would have finished that same move, and I get that, but I just think, yeah, this game is screaming out for this same sort of lineup as today. I think Eddie Nketiah is going to be more useful for the harder, bigger teams. I think that's where his strengths will lay. But we saw in the Man City game that if he doesn't put his chances away, then we suffer. So I still think he's got development to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and to be honest, if Nketiah was in the same position as Martinelli was in on Saturday, I think there's an argument to be had that he actually wouldn't finish that, just because you never really see Nketiah opening his body up and going for the far corner. He always tends to try and rifle the ball with either like his left or right foot. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't really go for that finesse shot. I think if he's in that position, he tries to bury it with his left foot. He tries to go for power more than placement. And I think placement is what really deceived the keeper. So I think there is definitely an argument to be had that he would get that onto his left foot and potentially, the chance might drift away from us. So, yeah, I was really happy that Martinelli was in that position to score the goal. And, yeah, it does seem like a real revenge fixture, doesn't it? Especially with how recent the game was that we lost. And hopefully we can get over the line. And we can go 5 points clear at the top of the Premier League, and then go on to the next game at the weekend. And it just shows you how we were talking really deflated the last four weeks or so of how poor we've performed. We went out of the FA Cup, we performed poorly in the league, and then all of a sudden, we had two back-to-back wins, one which was really hard fought against Aston Villa, which 4-2 doesn't show a real reflection of the game, and then a really resounding win against Leicester City when they didn't really pose as any threat at all. So it looks like we've got over that hill of struggling against these kind of teams, and we're really on a roll now, and hopefully we start to build this run, because this is the run that we were looking at, the post Man City run, the 8 or 9 games of winnable games, which we are winning. You still got to win the winnable games, and we are doing that. So it's really great right now, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. We kept on saying, didn't we? Well, we've got a nice 8 games coming up. Oh, we've got a nice 7 games coming up, and we just weren't winning them. And February's been tough, but I don't think it's gone as bad as it could have gone. We'd still managed to beat Spurs and United. If we'd have lost in those games or dropped points in those games, things would be looking a hell of a lot worse. To say that we could go 5 points clear on Wednesday is massive, really. It's massive. We've got Jesus coming back as well shortly, so we're going to have our main striker available. We've got Smith Rowe now back, training fully on the bench. So hopefully we can see some appearances from him soon and get his match fitness up again. We've got our substitutes performing really, really well. We've got Saka in blistering form. We've got Martinelli getting back into pretty good form. Our partnership at the back in Gabriel and Saliba seems as strong as ever. Although I did see a little altercation with those two at the full-time whistle. It looked like there was it was more Gabriel having a go at Saliba, from what I saw. Little bit of a tussle between them two. Did you see this at all?
No, I didn't catch that. Oh, I thought they had a
You
really
know,
good partnership and they were best friends. No, what went on there?
no. Yeah, well, they caught it on camera. Have a little search of it on Twitter, but it's a difficult one because I think it's just I think this sort of thing happens on every single game. It just happens that the cameras picked it up on it on the pitch, and there's nothing to read into it really. I don't think. I think they just strive for perfection, and there's probably something that wasn't quite right, and they got away with it in their minds a little bit. And I think they were just having a little chat about that, and Gabriel seemed to be a little bit frustrated with Saliba over something, but I think by the time they walked off the pitch, it was all settled and they were fine. But yeah, it's just something that was a little bit of a bit of a hoo ha at the end. But no, for me, nothing to it. I don't think.
Nah, I'm sure it's just because of the high standards they set. So if there's something that one of them's disagree with, maybe saying like, "Oh, you should have gone for that. Maybe you should have cleared that," or "Why were you not covering where I was stepping up?" But these
Yeah,
guys are
exactly.
professionals, aren't they? At the end of the day, so they're going to get frustrated if their partner isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing. But I'm sure, I'm sure there was nothing to it, and hopefully they'll both be starting on Wednesday.
Yeah. I think their partnership's really strong at the minute. I think Saliba's coming back into really, really good form. I think he's openly admitted that he's made a couple of little errors in recent games, and nothing that's concerning him or anything like that. But he says, this is football, and sometimes these things can happen. But it's something that he knows that he wants to work on. I think it was mainly that the Villa game where Watkins had him 1-on-1 and he managed to slot it away for their first goal. I think that's what really frustrated him. I think he knew he could have done better in there, and it sort of got to him a little bit. And he was talking about that with an interviewer, which I thought was really interesting. But no, I think we're starting to come into good form again. Lots of players coming into form at the right time, and hopefully, yeah, like we were saying earlier, we can go on to a little run again.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're looking at our next few fixtures, we're facing Everton and we're at home. So there's that revenge fixture, and they're also in the bottom three. They're in the relegation zone. So you would expect
Mm,
that we should hopefully get 3 points for that. Then we're playing
mm,
Bournemouth also at home. That if you
yeah,
see the way they performed against City the other day, that should be 3 points in the bag, really.
yeah,
Fulham also, they've performed quite well this season. Fulham, to be honest, I think out of any of these teams, they're probably one of the more threatening sides. However, I do think we should be turning over a team like Fulham. And then we've
yeah.
got Palace and Leeds. So in those fixtures, I really do hope that we get maximum points. I think the only one that I think we might struggle with is either Fulham or Crystal Palace, because Palace seem to always turn up against us for some reason. Maybe it's the Patrick Vieira thing. But
Yeah.
I'm feeling quite hopeful with our next few fixtures, especially we've got the Fulham game is sandwiched between two legs of Sporting Lisbon, so you might see a bit of
Mm.
rotation in that game. But I hopefully we'll be able to get over the line.
Yeah, no, they're on paper they are all very winnable games, aren't they? And like you say, Fulham, obviously they're what sixth, seventh, so they are doing really, really well at the minute. But I think in their most recent game, one of their best players in Polinia has got 10 yellow cards. So that's him suspended for our fixture, which is a bit of a boost for us. Um, just fingers crossed Willian doesn't score against us because that really would rub salt in the wounds, wouldn't it? I could just see that for some reason. Um, so hopefully that doesn't happen. But yeah, Palace probably the other one that's a little bit of a bogey team for us, isn't it? But we beat them on the opening day of the season, so and
Mm,
that was at Selhurst Park, so we're obviously going to be at home for that fixture, so
yeah,
that's a boost for us there.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
some
it's so
very winnable
important
games.
that it's so important that we can actually get through that run with maximum points, because just looking at our next fixtures after then, we're going into our final run, the last 9 games of the league. And we have
Yeah.
teams like Liverpool away, Man City away, Chelsea at home, Newcastle away. So, and Brighton as well. They've performed well this season. So we really need to capitalize on these points now, because we've got some really difficult fixtures coming up in the last few games. So we don't want to be in a position where we can potentially lose grip of the title in the last few weeks, because that would be so painful to
Mm,
have to witness,
yeah.
especially because we've come so far and we've done so well, and we have really achieved already this season far greater than I thought we would have. To be honest, I think the
Mm,
initial ambition was to get Champions League football. It looks like we're going to achieve that. And even if we do fall a little bit short of the title at the end of the season, then I'll still be proud of the boys. But
oh
I
yeah.
don't want us to lose grip of it so close to the end.
No, of course we don't. But I think a lot of Arsenal fans are realistic about it. If we can go toe to toe right until the end, and say we miss out, then fair play. We've done as best we could have done, and yeah, like you say, I'm proud as well. I'm so proud that we're in this position. Um, like now, never mind in May. So I think if we just keep taking each game as it comes and not looking too far ahead, um, I think we'll do all right. But yeah, these next 5 games are crucial because Anfield, City away,
Mm.
Newcastle away. They're going to be very, very tricky fixtures. So we can get a nice little buffer gap of points, then it won't make dropping points in those games as harsh for us.
Yeah, and one thing that is quite nice actually is that we should have Gabriel Jesus back for those games. So he
Yeah.
transforms our team. So if he's back in the side, then I think we've got a decent shot in all of those fixtures, to be honest. So yeah, I'm feeling quite confident. And is there anything else you want to add about the Leicester City game or going towards the Everton game on Wednesday?
There's one more thing about the Leicester game. I thought I'd just give a little honourable mention around, and that was with Zinchenko. being given the armband before the game
Mm.
to to mark the 1 year anniversary of the conflict in Ukraine, and this all apparently stemmed from an idea through Martin Odegaard, which I think's like it's just so nice. It's such a group. What I'm trying to say is that I just love this group of lads. Like that's the sort of level of like compassion and togetherness these players are showing each other. And yeah, I just thought that was just I thought that was really nice. It's a shame. A shame Zinchenko couldn't get a goal or assist or something
Mm.
to mark the occasion, but I think he had a really good performance, and he is such a leader as well, isn't he? So it made complete sense to me. What were your thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, it shows real unity in the team, doesn't it? And it shows a
Mm.
lack of ego from players like Martin Odegaard. You can tell that everybody really respects everybody else in the dressing room, especially to be able to pull something off like that. But yeah, as you say, it's a shame that he didn't score that goal that he did against Villa today, because that was his first
Yeah.
ever Premier League goal. That would have really marked the occasion for him, wouldn't it? But yeah,
Mm.
it's a nice gesture, but hopefully it does revert back to Martin Odegaard in going into future games, just because he's been such a great captain for us so far. I don't really see any real need for it to completely change, but
Well,
I'm pretty
no,
sure it is just for the Ukraine, isn't it?
it was just a mark of respect for the 1 year anniversary of the conflict, just a one-off game. But yeah, I just thought it was a brilliant touch by Arsenal and Odegaard, and yeah, like you say, it shows real unity of the squad to be able to do something like that for him.
Okay. So we roll on through this weekend, having gotten the 3 points that we really needed. So that's 6 from the last 2 games. And we will be going forward to the Emirates, actually, against Everton on Wednesday. So stay tuned for that one. We're going to be doing a post-match podcast probably the day after, because I'm actually going to that game, which I'm rather excited about, especially with how difficult it is this season to get tickets to the Premier League. So absolutely buzzing to be able to go along to that game. And just a quick note, a side note, it's now 20 past midnight on the 27th of February, and it's my birthday. So yeah.
Happy birthday, mate!
Thank
Fingers
you
crossed we
very
can win
much.
for you on Wednesday.
Oh, that would just really ice the cake, and I'll blow the candles out as well. That'd be so great. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, guys. Bye.